Capricorn, welcome to your November 2019 General Tarot reading. It's Raina here. The deck I'm using is the Wild Unknown, so it is quite distinctive, so sometimes people ask me what deck it is. Pencil and ink drawings, some of them black and white, some of them with little pops of color, and some of them with a lot of color. The heart of the matter is the Son of Cups, which is the world, the world. I was thinking of the world. The Knight of Cups. And this can be some kind of offer presented to you. And it's presented from a place of love, a place of, a soulful reason. So if it has something to do with your work, it might be more of a healing profession or creative profession. I was just blowing on my Palo Santo for a second. So even like relationships, this could be like somebody coming to you, the knight in shining armor, the romantic partner, or even somebody that's a creative partner that you meet, open mic night, poetry, singer-songwriter, an art gallery, and things like that. In the past position is the Tower card. So there's like this kind of, it's funny. What came into my head was the get out of jail card. Because I always say that, it kind of, the Tower card kind of breaks free from the restraints or constraints that person has, but sometimes it's coming from these outer forces. So you, for instance, getting out of a relationship that is stifling your growth, but you may kind of resist doing it on your end, and then the universe helps you out a little bit. Isn't it funny that I think there are probably a lot of cases where a person is unhappy in their marriage, or, the equivalent of that, and they are kind of like thinking about leaving, but they're still a little bit afraid to do so. And then their partner is the one who comes forth and says, I want to leave. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, wait a second. Because they wanted to be the one to do it. But they're still getting what they want. And they don't have to be the bad guy. But then it's like your ego gets a little bit bruised because all of a sudden you're not the one who's initiating it. So it can be one of those deals. Now this is, again, this is not something that is coming to me out of the blue. I personally do not see the Tower as, this is in the past position anyway, so this would be something that you've kind of been coping with. I would say around the time of that lunar eclipse in your sign. That's my best guess. So that would be mid-July, but sometimes people they experience it like maybe a month earlier, so it could even be from mid-June until now. There's some kind of like situation that has occurred that you are coping with. And an example would be if you found out that your partner was cheating and you kind of were reeling from it, and then somebody comes along who is very romantic and very caring. Could even be like a literal water sign, Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces. And your opposite sign is Cancer, so, That's one of them, obviously. And you can see the contrast between the two people, that maybe the universe wanted somebody more compatible for you who treats you better. The higher message is the Son of Swords. This is the Knight of Swords. Either this card can actually be a card of a lawyer, but in terms of I never really paid attention to this card and how it represents. You see the intensity of this. It might be saying the spiritual lesson is, look at how somebody talks to you. And so if you were in a relationship with somebody who was very combative, but maybe it was just verbally, and so you thought it wasn't that big of a deal, you just thought that they were argumentative or something like that, but it could have been even the way that they may be insulting in your face, that you should see that early on and take action, and not to wait for it to just keep going and going. Because if it does, then you get to this point where you've gone so far that it really is hard to kind of put the genie back in the bottle again. So it's important to pay attention to those things and make sure that they are that you're like on the right, you're in the right frame of mind to see things as they really are. The other thing too is, if this is some kind of like an offer for you to do some kind of like a healing arts type of profession, the Tower could have represented your release from prison, so to speak, your release from the 9-to-5 job that may have made you pay the bills and everything on that end, but you were not invested emotionally, and you were just on autopilot. You were just kind of like going through the motions in your life. And the Son of Swords in that context, I feel, is that, this individual is about telling it like it is. And I would even, kind of translate that to authenticity. And so being, not putting on some kind of a front of trying to be, this model citizen that, on the outside, but you're just going through the motions, ultimately. Just the idea of perhaps you understanding the higher purpose of life and not just, the day-to-day things. What crosses you is the Two of Cups. So this, in some cases, can be reuniting with someone. But I would even say, if, for instance, if you got laid off in the, in the recent past, I don't know what recent would be, maybe 3 to 6 months ago, and you're just kind of longing for them to ask you back, because maybe it's one of those things where they do sometimes ask people back, and you're hoping that you'll be one of them, is that you look at the bigger picture of what transpired, maybe even the way that they broke the news to you. Maybe they didn't treat you very well, and you need to acknowledge that to yourself, because they may have just pulled the rug out from under you. In a personal relationship, somebody may have cheated and you may have found out, or they simply said, I'm out of here. Maybe they ghosted you. Maybe they didn't even tell you they were gone, and you just had to find out, through the grapevine or what have you, and now they're back. And, that the song that just came into my mind, and now you're back, I will survive, And the reason that song exists, and it's still such a classic after over 40 years is because that is so commonplace for somebody to leave and then come back. But the thing is, I would say the vast majority of the time it's just to play more games. You know what I mean? It's like you know that there are people out here who have these on again, off again relationships that are really toxic. And the person who is experiencing this, in other words, in this case, you might know this, and you might kind of in your heart of hearts know that it's not right, you know, you deserve better than this. But it's so hard to kind of like admit this to yourself because you still care for this person even after they've done this. And, you know, I'm not going to say that 100% of the time if you go back to somebody who kind of pulls the rug out from under you that it's going to be a failure. Maybe there are occasions where somebody loses their head and they have an affair and it's a midlife crisis and they were feeling down because of other factors and they were just doing it to feel better, and then they realized what a terrible mistake it was. Yeah, you know, and I trust you to know if that's what you're dealing with. But if you sense that this person is just, it's just a way for them to kind of keep you on a leash, keep you in their control, feed off of your negative energy because you're kind of like in that in-between state, you're still mad at them, but you still want them back, then, you know, that's something that you have to work on. Because what the Son of Cups is an offer. And it may come at a time when you're starting to heal, but you still have these traces of, you know, wishful thinking about a former situation. What's coming in, or the advice, I'd say this is more like advice, the Nine of Wands. Set boundaries. Especially if you are entertaining somebody coming back. And by the way, I should have said that. In November, there will be a Mercury retrograde from the beginning of the month, actually from October 31st, until I believe it's the 20th of November. So sometimes people from your past come back. When I say come back, they may reach out to you. And that's the reaching out is the communication, which is associated with the Mercury. So past is retrograde and communication. And you know, will have to decide what is right for you in that particular context. And the outcome is the World card. And, you know, it's interesting because on November 12th, we're going to have a full moon in Taurus. And for Capricorn, Taurus is your 5th house of romance. Full moons can bring something to closure. And it can also bring something to light. But both of those things can go together. So for instance, let's say that somebody ghosted you in the past few months, and they, or maybe even a year ago, who knows, and they come back, or they call you, and they want to come back. And you're thinking about it, you're thinking seriously about it, but there's a part of you that's just kind of a little bit unsure. So you do a little snooping online, and you find out that this person is actually married, and they've been married the whole time. Or maybe, you know, whatever. I mean, that sounds a little bit far-fetched that you wouldn't know that already, but something. You tell your friend about it, and they say, look, I have to tell you something. This person hit on me, you know, and I never told you about it because I didn't want to hurt your feelings, but now that you're thinking about going back with them, I'm going to tell you right now. And then you realize, oh, this person is just like, I'm not going to take them seriously, and I think that they're really, bad news. And I'm not going to, have them in my life like that. I deserve better. And you kind of like can tie up those loose ends. Maybe something was left unsaid or undone because the way that you had ended it was messy in some way. And now, before you may have felt like, oh, I want, this person back, and now you know that you don't. That's an example of it. And so the other thing too is that perhaps there's travel connected to this offer if it comes up for you. So that may be really something that is exciting for you, that you are looking forward to. And so anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this and resonated with it, Capricorn. If you'd like a personal reading, I have a lot of different types, and most of them are astrology based with your natal chart. So please check me out at rainamoonastrology.com. I have provided the link below to my online store. Have a great November. Bye.